So after a very long time, the rocket is finally done and standing on its launch stand. It took much longer than I expected because I didn't know much about rockets, and this is my very first build. Even though it's a simple rocket made from a PVC pipe with plywood fins and a basic flight computer, I thought it would only cost around $25 to $30 to build. So let's set a budget of $50 and see if the total cost stays under that or goes way over it. Let's start with the flight computer. This is Silly, a rocket flight computer that I made for this rocket build. While making it, I made a lot of mistakes, and it took me many days to fix all those issues. I won't explain those problems right now, but if you want to know more about them, the video links are in the description. Silly is a very simple flight computer that can ignite pyro charges for parachute ejection and save all the flight data onto an SD card. The microcontroller I used is the Raspberry Pi Pico. It's a very good microcontroller with 264 kilobytes of SRAM and 2 megabytes of onboard flash storage. This little Pico runs at 133 megahertz, which is more than enough for almost all small-scale projects. It cost me 366 rupees, which is around $3.82. The Silly flight computer has only one sensor, and that's a BMP-280 altitude sensor. I know it's not ideal to have only one sensor on a flight computer, but it worked fine for me. This sensor measures altitude by detecting changes in atmospheric pressure, and for some reason, it can measure temperature too. It cost me 33 rupees, which is around 34 cents. Now, before moving further into the video, I want to explain my idea of how the flight computer will detect the launch and figure out when to fire the ejection charges. I had to be a little creative here because the flight computer doesn't have an IMU, so I was thinking about using only the BMP-280. If the rocket goes above 3 or 5 meters, the flight computer will assume that the rocket has launched and start logging the flight data. Then, when the rocket reaches apogee, the altitude will stop increasing. The BMP-280 will detect that change, and the flight computer will think the rocket isn't climbing anymore, so it's time to fire the pyro charges. That's the idea I came up with, but I'm sure there are much more creative ways to solve this problem, so if you have any better ideas, let me know in the comments. Next up, we have a micro SD card module, which cost me 33 rupees, or 34 cents, and an 8 gigabyte SD card that costs 200 rupees, or $2.08. The SD card module is used to save all the flight data, but I also needed a way to fire the pyro charges, and the Pico can't do that by itself. So the Pico needed a switch that could be turned on and off using only electrical signals, not a regular mechanical switch. There is a component that can do exactly that, and it's called a metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, or simply a MOSFET. At first, I bought an IRF520 MOSFET, but I quickly found out that it wouldn't work properly with the Pico's 3.3 volt signal. So I bought another one. I don't remember its exact name. I think it was an IRLZ44. But it had the same problem, and I only found that out after soldering it onto the flight computer. At that time, I didn't know how to remove solder, so I just cut the MOSFET's pins. Then I found another MOSFET called the IRLU120NPBF. Google told me it would work well with the Pico's 3.3 volt signal, so I looked through its datasheet and placed the order. It worked perfectly, and it cost me 53 rupees, or 55 cents. There are a few more components on the flight computer, like this MT3608 step-up module, which costs 44 rupees, or 46 cents, and a 1000 microfarad capacitor that cost around 62 cents. Components are mounted on 2 prototype boards that cost around 46 cents. That's everything on the flight computer, and the total cost comes to $8.11. Wait, I forgot to include the battery. To power the flight computer, I originally bought a 3.7 volt, 1000 mAh 30C LiPo. It was the perfect battery because it was very lightweight and could supply a lot of current very quickly. That's what the 30C rating means, but somehow the battery got pregnant, so I can't use it anymore. Instead, I'll be using this 3.7 volt, 3000 mAh lithium-ion cell. It's a little heavier and can't supply current as quickly, but it should work just fine. This cell cost me 150 rupees, or $1.56, which brings the total cost of the flight computer to $9.67. Now let's have a look at the rocket itself. I used a 38-inch long PVC pipe for the airframe, and I honestly don't remember how much it cost. As far as I can remember, it was somewhere between 100 and 160 rupees, so I'll assume it cost 150 rupees, or $1.56. The fins are made from plywood. I also used the same plywood to build the motor test stand, and it cost me $1.35. Then there's the epoxy and glue I used to assemble the rocket. I went through 2 tubes of epoxy, which cost a total of $2.91. And I also used some epoxy clay to shape the tip of the nose cone, which cost 20 rupees, or 21 cents. To be honest, I think I built most of the rocket almost for free. The airframe is just a PVC pipe with plywood fins. The motor mount is a cardboard tube I found around the house. And the nose cone is made from foam board, cardboard discs, and some wood glue. As for the paint, I spent around $2.50 on spray paint and another 21 cents on masking tape. I wouldn't say the paint job is perfect, but it was my first time painting a rocket, and I think it turned out really beautiful. The blue and white color combination looks amazing. I still wonder why nobody has ever asked me why I named this rocket Spring. The flight computer's done, the airframe is done, and it's all dressed up nicely. Now, let's give her some wing. I'll only be adding the cost of a single motor, and I think making a G-class PVC rocket motor costs around 90 to 150 rupees. For the motor body, I used a 9-inch long UPVC pipe. UPVC isn't as strong as CPVC, but that's all I could find in the market. A 9-inch piece of UPVC costs around 18 cents. The motor design also uses 4 metal washers, which cost me 42 cents in total. Then, I used 2 packs of epoxy clay, costing 20 rupees each, or 42 cents altogether, and about 10 cents worth of super glue. The motor also uses a cardboard liner, but I can make those for free. The fuel doesn't cost much either. I bought 1 kilogram of KNO3 for 200 rupees, and each motor uses about 150 grams of rocket candy with a 65-35 mixture. Each motor uses around 97 grams of KNO3, which costs only about 20 cents, and the sugar is basically free. Now, I didn't expect that. I thought this project would cost somewhere between $30 and $50, but it only came to $19.35. That's actually pretty surprising. A single G-class PVC rocket motor costs less than $1 to make. Well, we're still nowhere near the $50 mark. So let's add a few more expenses, starting with the rocket motor test stand. To build it, I bought a 40-kilogram load cell for 300 rupees, or $3.12. The cost of the plywood has already been included, so I won't count that again. For the electronics of the test stand, I used an ESP8266, which cost me 140 rupees, an HX711 module that cost 31 rupees, and a lithium-ion cell that cost 50 rupees. That's a total of 221 rupees, or around $2.30. The launch stand is also finished, but I haven't uploaded anything about it yet. Let's add up its cost as well. I bought a rusted metal pipe from a junkyard for 160 rupees, 2 1,000mm 20x20 T-slot aluminum rails for 884 rupees. Spent another 100 rupees on welding and 100 rupees on 2 metal strips to join the rails together. Altogether, the launch stand cost me 1,244 rupees, or around $12.94. So, the total cost of this entire rocket project comes to $37.71. But somehow, I feel like I spent much more than that, and I don't really know how. Maybe it's because I had to test everything, or maybe I just didn't know exactly what I needed to build a rocket. So I ended up buying things that I never even used in this project. Now, I know what it takes to build a simple rocket, so the next one should cost even less. I also didn't include the parachute because I still haven't made it, and I think it will cost me less than $1. It's great that I was able to build a rocket without spending too much money, but spending less doesn't always mean better. This rocket could still be unreliable. I'll do everything I can to make sure it flies and lands safely, but there's always a chance that it could crash. If I hadn't built the motor test stand and had gone with a very simple launch stand without aluminum rails, the total cost of this project would have been only around $20 to $25. That's it for this video. I hope it helps you with your own rocket project. The next video will be the launch of this rocket, so let's see what happens. And if you want to watch the complete build series, you can find all the videos on my channel. See you in the next video.